Hello and welcome to The Boxing Hour with me, Martin Domin. This is a new show from the All Out Fighting collection of shows brought to you by Mirror Fighting. And each week for around about an hour, I will speak to a range of guests from the world of boxing. Sometimes it'll be longer, sometimes it will be shorter. But for this first show, I welcome three guests. First of all, Savannah Marshall, newly crowned middleweight world champion following her impressive victory over Hannah Rankin. Savannah talks about that fight, about her rivalry with Claressa Shields, about training with Peter Fury, and about the future of women's boxing, which has really gone from strength to strength, even during lockdown. Then I welcome Daniel Dubois, our great heavyweight hope for the future, ahead of the biggest fight of his career to date, as he prepares to take on Joyce. One of the big men will go on probably to world honours, the other very much back to the drawing board. And then finally, I welcome Miguel Vazquez from Mexico, several weeks after he was, in most people's eyes, robbed by the judges against Lewis Ritson. It's the second time he'd come to the UK and suffered a dodgy decision. He talks about those two fights with Ritson and with O'Hara Davies, about whether he'd come back to the UK to fight, and what his ambitions are as he comes towards probably the end of his career. However you do watch or listen to the show, please do rate, review and subscribe. And without further ado, here's my first guest, Savannah Marshall. Savannah, congratulations on becoming world champion. I'm sure you're obviously delighted, but if you think about how it all came about, originally at one venue, one opponent, one weight with fans, then to behind closed doors, a different opponent and a different weight. And then, of course, your trainer, Peter Fury, tested positive for COVID and it was delayed again. Did you ever think maybe this is not meant to be?
Oh, plenty of times. I remember saying to Peter, when it got announced I was on the Usyk Chisora bill, I remember saying to Peter, "Oh, Peter, I'm not going to actually believe this is happening until I'm in that ring and that bell rings." But I'm still shocked that it all worked out because, like you just said, everything there, that is just typical Savannah Marshall. It always seems to be something.
Did you ever think, I mean, let's say Peter had tested positive again before the rescheduled fight, would you have gone in without him? Was there ever a point where you thought, I've just got to get this done?
We did have that conversation, and I said, "Oh, look, I want if that comes to it, because it's not just from winning a world title; it's also from a financial point of view. Like before then, I hadn't boxed this year, and you only get paid when you box. So really, I'd paid out for 3 training camps, sparring partners, physio, all that jazz. And then for me not to get the money back because the fight was getting cancelled. So I was skint, basically. But we had that conversation and I'd said, "Oh, look, I want my amateur coach, Tim, who'd done my pro debut in America." So for me, it was, the only second person that I'd trust, to be fair. But that never thankfully tested negative.
I mean, I'm loath to use the word easy for any fight, but from the outside, it looked, let's say, comfortable for you in there.
Well, it wasn't no fight. No disrespect to Hannah Rankin. It was a comfortable fight for me. And I think I used my skill and my height and range advantage well.
Did it feel like, from the outside, it felt like you'd gone up a few levels? Like maybe, I don't know whether you needed an opponent to do that or a certain type of opponent, or the stage being a world title fight, you needed that. But it felt like you found your groove and that you really delivered in a way that you'd sort of been threatening to, but maybe hadn't quite managed.
No, I don't. I think it was more of the fact of, I know I've always been good enough. I know I've always been well level, but I've never had the chance. Like you said there, things always getting in the way, always been wrong place, wrong time, so to speak. But even my last 2 fights with Matchroom, the first one I think I'd stopped in round 6 or something, and then the second one I stopped in a round. So really, it's kind of, Hannah had that world level caliber to say, "Look, I'm stepping up now," and also it kind of went the second half of the fight. So I did have that chance to show people, look, Han's a world-class fighter, and this is what I could do up against some world-class fighters. So I think it was more just being given the chance, and also the platform. I mean, Usyk Chisora, a pay-per-view platform. I had a good slot. I think I was on third from last. So really, it was all eyes on me, and I think that's what kind of people that finally got the chance to see what I could do.
Definitely. Do you ever, when you're in that ring, it's obviously 100 miles an hour, but do you ever get the chance to enjoy it? Does it go through your head, actually? Do you sort of think, this is a world title fight, I'm clearly winning it, I'm loving life? Or is it just so intense that you don't get that chance?
Well, I remember going back to the corner, and I remember Peter being like, right, round 7. And I remember thinking, oh my God, it's round 7 already. Like, it just goes so fast, especially 2 minutes. You blink and it's over. But there was, I think, maybe round 5, I knew I'd hurt her. And to be honest, I kind of, knew that she was hurt and I could finish it. And I think that's probably the only thing that really crosses your mind, because Peter tries to keep you as calm as possible. So, you don't have the chance to be thinking, oh, I'm loving life. This is great.
He does strike me as a very calm coach, Peter. I can't imagine him really getting flustered. And I think we also are seeing his influence on you technically as well. It feels like a really good fit.
Oh, 100%. I just feel like my confidence. I don't know how it's come about, because Peter's actually, like, I know that the Furies have got a bit of persona, but Peter's actually like a really sweet man. Like, he's a really kind and very respectful man. And that, I just think I don't know where this like confidence has just come from. I think maybe it is from knocking about with the Furies, but like I said, Peter's quite like a really respectful man, and I think it's just me being confident in my skills, because training with Peter, it gives you an answer for everything. So, I mean, there was a time when I first started training with him, and I was your typical amateur, hands above your temple, forward and back in straight lines. And I remember him saying, put your hands down. And for me, that was just total alien. It felt so uncomfortable. But I've been with Peter over 3 years now, and me putting my hands up is more uncomfortable now, because I have less movement. My reactions are a lot quicker when my hands are down, for bringing them up, blocking shots. And I just feel like with Peter there and coaching me and in my corner, I feel like I've just got an answer for everything, because of, I've got that much trust in him.
Yeah, no, that's hugely important. You talk about an answer, and the next question, you can't win a world title without then being asked, or you can't win a fight these days without being asked what's next. And obviously, right after your victory, it was Claressa Shields this, Claressa Shields that. Maybe I'm being a doubting Thomas, but there's something nags in my mind, not through either you not wanting to fight or Claressa. I'm sure fighters always want that fight, but something just tells me your paths might not cross because of what she's got going on in America. How confident, honestly, do you feel that you will meet?
I'm 100% confident. Whether maybe it'll be sooner rather than later. Like you said, she's got a lot going on in America, and with the path she's going down, I wouldn't be surprised if she decided to go down the MMA route. And to be honest, there's a lot more money in it, so I don't blame her. But I do believe our paths will cross, down to the fact of her ego. She's not going to let that slide, that I've got that one fight over her. But like I said, I'm 100% confident it'll happen in 2021. And yeah, like I said, I whether or not it'll be my next fight or not, I couldn't tell you, but it will be 2021.
That's good to hear, because it feels like a genuine, well, it is a genuine rivalry. You've got that history, which always helps, and there has been a bit of back and forth. Is that something you think the women's game maybe needs? Not necessarily, too much back and forth in a really bitter rivalry. I don't think anyone really wants that in any sport, but something that's got a good history, a good storyline that can play out, build interest, and then I can't imagine it would ever be a bad fight on the night.
Yeah, 100%. It's the only, I would say, genuine rivalry in boxing and even MMA. It's been going on for years. I think me and Clarissa boxed in 2012. And because of her character, she plays the baddie. And I think a lot more people would probably want to see Clarissa get beat rather than get win. But it's like the Floyd Mayweather, isn't it? He's got a lot more people want to see him get beat than win, but it's money in the bank, isn't it? But like I said, it is that this fight between me and her will and can be the biggest fight in female martial art history, I would say. Yeah, because of the rivalry and because probably maybe her character. I'm a lot more reserved and quiet, and it's Britain versus USA. Doesn't get much bigger than that.
No, it's definitely got all the makings. Hopefully, it can happen, and B, it happens in the right way in terms of it's built up properly, promoted, and
yeah, exactly.
And I keep saying it, but with fans, because of that will be important. In terms of women's we keep referring to women's boxing, but it's been such a good few months. If there's one positive to come out of lockdown in terms of boxing, I would argue that it is the emergence or the emergence of female boxers into the mainstream. Let's say you've always been there, but maybe more people are now seeing you in action and appreciating the sport. I think we now have maybe only one more male champion, if we include Ireland and Katie Taylor as well, than we do female champions, which is a big difference from a year ago. Do you have a sense, as someone obviously involved, that it's really gaining momentum?
100%. Lockdown has worked wonders for female boxing. And a lot more girls are getting their chances now. Hell of a lot more girls, and it's what the sport needed. I mean, even Eddie signing for foreign girls that I've never even heard of. So, what does that say?
Well, if anyone's going to be ahead of the game, it'll probably be Eddie. Is one thing I wonder. It's great to have these world champions, and of course that can only encourage, I think, the younger generation to come through. But do you think enough's being done to build it from the ground up? In terms of, there are no British titles, for example. Does there need to be more, not by the fighters, but maybe by the board of control or the promoters, to build the sport up from the bottom to make sure that once this current crop are retired in however long that will be, there are enough coming through to replace you?
I'm not too. I think put it this way. Originally, there was talks of me fighting Hannah last year, and there was interest from the board to grant it for a British title. So, yeah, that could have been done, and I think it will be in the future once the crop gets a bit bigger, like you said there with the female boxing. But with me and Hannah, there's only really me and Hannah at them bigger weights. So if we would have fought for that title, then it was a case of who would we have defended it against. But that's not our problem, that's the board's problem. So I was just thinking, I'll just, if I win that belt, hopefully they'll just forget about me and not ask me to give it back after 3 defences. But I do think that there's some good fights on, like Amy Timlin versus Carly Skelly. That was on the Usyk bill. That was for the Commonwealth, wasn't it? And I do think if it might have been pushed a little bit, it might have been granted for the British. But I think sometimes the women are just happy with one belt, maybe, because looking back in the past, it wouldn't have been thought of.
Yeah, of course you can't. Imagine the younger fans coming up now who see women's boxing regularly. if you say to them, actually, hang on, it wasn't that long ago that it wasn't allowed, that nobody was interested, they probably wouldn't believe you. So I guess it is important just to remember that context of how it's, A, how it started, and B, how it's grown so much. It's not been around forever, and it's not that there are just not many women want to box. It's just that for a long time they couldn't. You mentioned earlier that you only get paid when you fight, and one of the issues is the difference in pay between men and women. I don't imagine you expect that to change soon, but do you feel like there is a time when the gap will narrow a bit and that there will be more parity? Because it took a long time in other sports. You think about tennis, I think they now are, for the Grand Slams anyway, paid the same money, but it took a long time and a lot of arguing to get to that point. How do you see that journey going in boxing?
I think it's light years away that women would be on par with the men. Even now, put it this way, there's a 3 world title women's triple header on, and when would that have ever happened with the men? Because it would have been too expensive. But it has come on leaps and bounds because, like you said previous, most promoters wouldn't have females on their shows. So, I'm just happy that females are getting airtime. The pay is a million miles away, and some promoters would argue because women only do 2 minutes, and the men do 3s. The men fight for a lot longer, so they can demand more money. But it's just it is what it is. It is what it is. I've got a good team behind me, so I know that from a purse perspective, I'm going to get the best I can get probably in this time and in this climate. But there's nothing you can scream and shout about it. But I think it's a bit of one of them subjects where you daren't say too much because of the backlash, maybe. But let's just hope it comes on par. But I can't see it happening.
I suppose it's that balance between, as you say, you can have these shows like we have coming up this weekend with the 3 world titles at the top of the bill, or you can price yourself out of that and end up, down the bottom of the bill or not fighting at all. So
exactly,
I suppose it's that balance. Are you surprised at all? All 3 of Katie Taylor, Rachel Ball, and Terry Harper are sort of coming out quite quickly after fighting in the summer. Are you surprised that they're, fighting again just a few months after?
No, it's brilliant. I'd love to have been given that opportunity. I'd have jumped on it. I think it's absolutely brilliant. Like you said, for me, I think female boxing's more entertaining because from a fan perspective, it's 2-minute rounds. I mean, I'm a boxing fan, and I get bored with the 3s. It's a lot slower pace. There's not much happening. It takes a while to build up sometimes, but with the women's, it's like that, so you can't take your eyes off it. So I think I'm really excited for this weekend. I think it's brilliant. Terry's on a bit of a comeback after a draw against Tash. Rachel's after a performance against Shannon Courtney. And obviously there's Katie Taylor, and the girl who she's coming against, I actually know this girl. I remember sparring her a couple of years ago, and she's a big girl and she comes down to the weight. But I remember sparring her and she beat me up. And that was heavier than her. But she's a good girl, very aggressive. And I think it'll be a good fight.
And Katie, of course, coming off the back of a very, very tough fight. So you think maybe it won't be quite as one-sided as maybe the people are saying?
I think Katie will have a chance to box a lot more, whereas Pursoon fights, you've got to just bite down on your gum shield and tough it out. But it'd be good to see that what that last fight took out of Katie, because, like you said there, it's such a short space of time. And she's had 2 absolute wars now with Pursoon. And, either some fighters take a lot out of that and grow or go the other way. And like you said, it's only been 3 months, 3 or 4 months.
Yeah, I suppose, was it July maybe? So maybe not, maybe a bit longer.
So it's been quite a quick turnover. So it'll be be easy. Be good to see how she gets on, really.
And maybe you fought at kind of a bad time of year. Is this, we've only got a few more months left, or 6 weeks of the year left, really, and a few more shows. Are you now just feet up until the new year?
Yeah, I won't be out now till February, March time. So, but for me, I've had 3 training camps. So really, although I haven't actually had the war in the ring, I got a nice pace at the end. I've actually had quite a tough year. Not just physically, but emotionally. It's been mental. It's been a crazy roller coaster. So I've had a week off now. I've let my body weight in sugar. I've had enough of being a slob. So I've just been on the phone to Pete, and I'm going to go back in the gym tonight and just start taking over.
Excellent. Well, Savannah, thank you very much for joining me, and congratulations again. Look forward to seeing you out in the new year. Daniel Dubois, thank you very much for joining me. Of course, just weeks away from potentially the biggest fight of your career so far, anyway, against British rival Joyce. This fight was supposed to happen with fans, supposed to happen several times, but being delayed. When did you realise that really you had no choice but to fight behind closed doors?
Well, it was just a matter of, take it or leave it. And we decided to have the fight. And I was all for it. In my mind, the fight was going to happen this year. And so I'm glad we're here now. And we're, 3 weeks away. So, no looking back now.
Have you had to take a smaller purse because it's behind closed doors?
Yeah. I think, we have a pay cut, regrettably. But it is what it is. We're living in strange times at the moment, and the way the world is shaky, it's fragile. So we have to, make do with what we got. And, this fight, it's not just about the money, it's about the legacy and, leaving that, legacy behind. That I came through a great challenge.
Is that something, when you talk about legacy and making sure that you fight the best people at the right time, is that something that's always been on your mind? Is it something that you look around and see other fighters not doing, so therefore you're determined to make sure you don't skip opponents, if you like?
Yeah, definitely. I think I can't speak for other fighters, but for me, before I even turned pro, I knew I was going to be heading in this direction, facing the best. And I didn't come in this to come second best. I wanted to get to the top straight away and as fast as I could. So I'm really over the moon that it's happening now.
You fought once behind closed doors. Was there anything that surprised you about that whole experience?
Not really. It was different atmosphere and outside the ring. But once you're in the ring, you're in the zone. And right now, I'm not going to let that, bother me and distract me from the job at hand.
There's a sense in boxing, of course, anyway, that there's so much talk beforehand, but ultimately it's 2 men in the ring, so it doesn't matter what's said before. But is behind closed doors, is that even more so the case? There's not even any fans, it's just 2 men, and what will be, will be.
Yeah, it really is old school, isn't it? Could be fighting in a cellar for, it's really taking it back to the beginning, early days. But they say I'm a throwback fighter, so I'm ready for whatever they want to, put whatever situation it's going to be in our atmosphere. It's not going to affect me.
Now you're 23 years old. Joyce is 35. You're WBO number 2. He's number 10. Would I be right in saying that he needs this fight and you more than you need him in this fight?
No, I think we both need this fight. It's at crossroads. We need collision course now. So we needed this fight to happen. Can't go through saying you're the best and not fighting the best. So this is where we're at, and I need to beat him and prove to myself as well as everyone else that I'm heading for the number 1 spot.
But you could, in theory, I assume, have just waited. And then, given the way the belts are just now, you could have just waited for a world title shot.
Could have, yeah, possibly, and maybe pick it carefully and all of that. But I'm ready for this. I'm prepared for this since I started boxing. So this is all part of my growing as a fighter, and in and out of the ring, just getting better in every way. And I think it's come at the right moment.
If you were to rate the level of opponent out of 10 that you fought, so I know they're all different, but how many steps above who you fought before do you think Joe is?
He's. If I was to rate him against Gorman, I don't know. Is he that much better than him? We'll have to wait and see. I don't think so though. I don't. He is a force in the ring like myself, and big and strong. But I'm used to that. I'll be ready for that. So I'm not going to go in there and make him out to be anything he isn't. He's another man in front of me, 2 arms and 2 legs that I've got to break down and take him out.
I know they say records are for DJs, but on paper, I would argue he has fought at least more recognisable names. Let's say I know in the former world title challengers in Bryant Jennings and Bermain Stavern, I know they were probably a bit past their best by the time he fought them. Yeah. But is that fair to say that he's probably fought better opponents?
Yeah, he's fought more world-known guys than myself, more credible names and stuff people have heard of before. But that won't make a difference. You could say that he's faced a better opposition, but I'm only young, so I've got time to learn and take fights. I think all my fights I've had today has been good fights, learning fights, and it's been stepping up to this level. So I'm just peaking right now.
So, given his experience, what do you have that he hasn't seen before?
I'll have to show you on the night, but if you want to know, I don't really have the answers for that. I like to do my talking in the ring and show you what I got in the ring. But yeah, it's to be something different for sure, and a force and a power that not many guys, I don't think, in the heavyweight division have.
Now, given your age, again, do you think it's better for boxing, both for Britain, both on the world stage? Do you think it's better for boxing, given you've got a long career ahead of you and Joe probably doesn't, or not, at least not as long as you? Is it better for boxing that you win?
It's better for me, I know for sure. Boxing, yeah, I think maybe, I don't know. Boxing is I will always love boxing, and it's a great sport. But for me, I know this is going to be this for me to win will be open many doors. It will be my key to a fast route to the world title and to the big names in the big fights.
You mentioned that fast route. It's not at all inconceivable that you could, if you win this fight for a world title within 6 to 9 months, let's say. Would that be ahead of the schedule you've set for yourself, behind schedule, or just sort of on target?
Probably on target. I said by the Olympics and beginning I was talking about that, but the Olympics hasn't happened yet, and this is, I think it's right on time. Yeah.
It's one thing to win a world title, should you go on to do that, but do you feel confident enough that you'd be in a position to stay at the top?
Well, I'd hold on to it as long as I possibly can, and when my time's up, it's up. But I'm feeling real good now, and if I continue to get better and more experienced and become a better fighter than I already am, then I can see myself training for quite a good few years, and setting leaving a legacy that will be remembered in for all time, and a Hall of Famer one day, hopefully.
I had a look at the average age of the top 10 Ring magazine heavyweights, and it's just over 34. So it's almost a decade older than yourself. Do you feel, are you a different sort of, and a lot of them are just at their peak or just coming into it. Are you a different breed of heavyweight? Are there going to be sort of younger guys coming through, do you think, to take over?
I don't know. I think because of the time I've been in this sport and when I started, I think because of, my dad started me off at a really young age, and through the amateur system and everything, they always talked about that I was always a few years behind the other guys. So it's carried on to the professional ranks. And I think it's going to play in my favour that I've got the youth and the speed that they don't have, and that's going from them. And
And of course, if you do fight for a world title, he's likely to be against Alexander Usyk. What did you think of his performance against Archuleta?
I thought it was a good performance from both guys. Chisora did well. He pushed the pace and made it a great fight. Usyk, again, he's a class operator. Good punching, boxing ability, and he's a good athlete. So can't take anything away from him.
Do you agree with people that think he'll struggle against the bigger heavyweights?
Yes, and yeah, probably. He doesn't seem to be that much of a concussive punch or such, but I'll definitely see myself being ready for him if we do fight.
How do you think you'd cope with his footwork and his movement, which has troubled so many fighters, including Joe Joyce in the past?
That's a long way from now. I don't have the answer. Again, I haven't even thought about that. But I think my boxing skills, and at heavyweight, it comes down to just the basics really of boxing, and the simple stuff can take you a long way. So I think that and my athleticism and my youth will open doors for me.
And send him back to the cruiserweights.
Yeah.
Daniel, thank you very much for joining me, and all the best against Joe. I hope you're enjoying the show so far. As I mentioned, our third and final guest is Miguel Vazquez, who joins us from Mexico following his controversial defeat by Lewis Ritson a few weeks ago. But the main voice you will hear is that of Mariana Caballero, Miguel's translator. Unfortunately, my Spanish is not up to scratch. If you're watching the show, then of course you will see all three of us. If you're listening, the main voice you will hear is that of Mariana's. I started by asking Miguel whether, having had a controversial fight against O'Hara Davies last year, he was reluctant to come to fight Lewis Ritson in the first place.
He knows that it's always difficult to win a fight when you're abroad. He checked on Lewis Ritson when he got the fight proposal, and he felt pretty confident that he would beat him. Taking the O'Hara fight was a statement to the world that Miguel Vazquez is still here. Like he's still on track in the sport. He's still available for good fights. He could beat Ritson, and that's what made him confident today.
And how did you feel you performed against Lewis Ritson?
He feels that he gave a great performance. He feels he won the fight, but he doesn't want to challenge it. He accepts it. He respects the judges, their appreciation of the fight, but he still feels that he did enough. However, he also says that it was a difficult fight. It was a tough fight. It was not an easy fight. So in that regard, he accepts the result.
There has been a lot of controversy in the UK about this fight. Almost everybody thinks that Miguel won the fight. So why does he not feel more angry and want to challenge it?
Well, he knows that rules-wise, it's not possible to do anything to to revert the decision. So it is what it is. However, he feels that the best, and rather than going into challenging it and seeing how to revert it, he feels that the best thing to do is to get a rematch, like to call on for a rematch against Ritson and even with O'Hara as well. That's the best way that he thinks you can actually challenge like a wrong decision.
Miguel, do you think you will get that rematch with Lewis Ritson?
I would like the opportunity to show who's best, who's the better man. I would like to first take a rematch against O'Hara Davies. Actually, he went backstage after the fight and offered it himself. He said that he would give me a rematch. So that's the first fight I would look after. And after that, if possible, I would like to do the same against Lewis Ritson. It doesn't matter where, it doesn't matter who are the judges, it doesn't matter like in the UK or elsewhere where around the world. I would like to show myself in the ring and do it again with both of them.
If you did fight either man back in the UK or anyone in the UK, how could you be confident that the judges would be fair to you?
He feels that changing on his strategy is crucial. He would go and look for the knockout. He knows that his style is naturally more boxer style, but this time he would look to be more aggressive, work more on the power punches and look for the knockout, and show more will to the judges to that he's there for the win. So if he doesn't get the knockout, he would put that extra that was necessary to get the decisions he feels.
Do you think that your experiences in the UK, and there have been other fighters who have not got the right decision, do you think foreign fighters will be reluctant to come over to the UK in the future?
He feels that it's not a UK sole issue. It's a general issue around the world that when fighters go abroad, they always come with that extra pressure of knowing that they're in a difficult territory and that they might not get the win, and that sometimes even getting the draw is already like a win, you know. And he says that it's something that he's seen or experienced in Canada, in South America, in Mexico even. So he thinks it's a general issue in the sport.
Do you think there's anything that the sport can do to stop it happening?
He feels that the solution is sitting with the commissions. The commissions need to do the necessary work to be more fair, to be less localist, bend towards the local fighters, and give an equal chance to the fighters coming from abroad to do their job and get the win if they should get the win. He said he doesn't let these outcomes in the UK define him, his future, or what he feels in regards to the UK and England. He loves it there, and despite having these two fights that were controversial, he's happy to go back to fight there anytime when he gets an opportunity to return to the UK. And he really enjoys the people, the country, and judging in the sport doesn't define the country itself. It's a great country,
and we love having you. That's 3 times now you've come over. Did Lewis Ritson say anything to you after the fight about the result?
Lewis was a real gentleman. From whatever they were able to communicate between English and Spanish, Ritson apologized for the outcome of the fight, but Miguel told him that it's not his fault. This has nothing to do with him, and it's not personal at any level. It's not neither on that decision doesn't rely on the hands of neither Miguel or Richardson. They just step in the ring and do their job. He thinks Lewis is a very, very nice guy, and he wished him the best for his upcoming title defense, and he wished him the best if he gets a title shot, and told him to keep his head up and keep on fighting.
Miguel, you've had, I think, 52 fights as a professional. You've been a world champion, although you are only 33. What's left for you to achieve in the sport?
He feels he can still be a world champion, and he still has more to give. Boxing is his passion. It's in his blood. It's in his heart. It's his job too. He loves it, and he also sees it as the way to secure his family. So that's his big motivations, his passion for the sport and securing his family. And he thinks he can do it by becoming a world champion and defending successfully his title.
Thank you very much for your time, Miguel. Gracias, and all the best for the future.
He says thank you very much for the time, and he's always very happy to the British media and to the English people. So he's grateful for that and honored.
That's all from the Boxing Hour for this week. I'll be back next Wednesday with another range of guests, but in the meantime, please do check out the other shows on the channel. On a Monday, I host After the Bell with George Groves and Declan Taylor as we look back on the weekend's action and ahead to what's next for the winners and losers. And on Tuesday, my colleague Rich Jones talks to an up-and-coming fighter to learn about their story ahead of what hopefully will be a promising career. So until next week, thanks for tuning in.